I want to start with a couple of easy questions.
Raise your hand if you would like a real quality of life as you age. Yeah, great. Raise your hand again if you would like an easy route to that quality of life. Yeah, good. Okay. But what if this is not working? What if we were to think about a grid, quality of life grid or a health grid, where one, not working, one is you're on a life support machine, and 10 is actually how you're supposed to feel, that wonderful feeling of well-being every day. I want you to think just for a moment where you are between 1 and 10. I want to tell you when I was a 3, I was in Fiji. It was the 7th of November, 2003. And I want you to feel the warm sun against your skin. Do you feel the lapping of the ocean against the sea? Can you smell the wonderful green foliage? I was in Anthony Robbins' detox program. Has anyone not heard of Anthony Robbins? Okay. Well, he's an American motivational speaker. He helps you get physically and mentally better. There were 39 of us, 36 Americans and 3 British. It's being run by a clean-cut American called Shore. Okay, you guys, how are you doing out there? Awesome, fantastic. Crew, is there anyone out there who isn't feeling so good? That's me. I've got a terrible headache. I feel sick. Elizabeth, come on down to the front, lie on the floor. And you guys, you all go around her and lift her up. The guy at the back, he started to play Joe Cocker, tears running down my face.
Oh, so beautiful.
And then suddenly, it was like a warm air. It's coming down my body, a healing air. That I'm a scientist. How can this be happening? It was healing me right down. I started to think about my brother. I'd lost him through cancer. He didn't bother about his diet or exercise. He was under enormous pressure at work. But that's me. I've got the same genes. Fast forward 3 years, you'll be standing with me opposite my pharmacy in Clarkson Road, Glasgow. The night before, my husband had sat me down. Come on, Elizabeth, you're running ragged between your 2 pharmacies. Look at you, you're unhealthy. You need to sell one of them. I can't, it's my baby, I've conceived it. I've nurtured it through the years, it's now 28 years old. What about my patients? But I did decide to sell, but I'm not selling to one of those faceless corporations. And I remember my colleague, my friend, he'd never managed to get his own pharmacy. Well, Alistair, like to buy a pharmacy? Absolutely. So on the 1st of February 2008, I sold my pharmacy, and it was actually like a bereavement. I'd be walking down the street, meeting someone, and saying to me, "Hello, Mrs. Roddick. we're missing you already. Or, hello, we wish you were still at the pharmacy. It was hard. It was about a year later, we were sitting listening to the radio. And I heard this song.
You raise me up so I can't stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy sea. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
I was back there in Fiji. What about myself? Come on, Elizabeth. Get going. Do things you enjoy in your life. So I joined a Zumba class. I started to eat nutritious food. And the amazing thing was, I started to attract people into my life. People who needed my help, who wanted my help. They said, you can help me. They weren't feeling well. They were maybe putting on weight. They were unhappy. So that's why I started the ER Quality Life System. Now, I think you've... can I give you some of the things that are available for you today? Will you give me permission to do that? Yeah? Okay. Now, these are two supplements I think you should be taking: omega-3 and vitamin D. Omega-3 is great for the heart, good for the joints, and ladies, it's great for your skin, your nails, and your hair. Vitamin D, if you had seen me on Question Time 2 weeks ago, you would have seen me asking a question about vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, I think we know, is great for bones. But did you know also it's good for the immune system? That day, there was research suggesting that you can reduce your coughs and colds, acute infections in the chest by 50%. Now, I do testing in my pharmacy. And I first of all found out I was severely deficient myself. And yes, I had respiratory tract infections all the time. I also had really sore bones. I got my levels up and it made a huge difference. Now it's interesting that if you go to countries who don't have that particular level of vitamin D, which hits the skin, that UVB light from the sun, which hits the skin and makes vitamin D, the less of that particular light you have in countries, the greater incidence there is of cancer. I did some testing on some ladies in the pharmacy, my patients, and I found that all of the patients who'd had a history of breast cancer had very, very low vitamin D levels. Now that was interesting. These are two supplements I think you should take. Now that's my website. It's just so important, erqualitylifesystem.com. If you've got a pen and paper, write it down. You maybe got my card, which is good. And there's webinars on there about the system, the different parts of it. And this is your manual. Look better, feel better, live better. This is your plan to get through your life, improve your quality of your life. And today, there will be 2 free books given away for people who, at the end of the talk, answer the correct question I'm going to give to you to make sure you've been listening. So see me at the end. I think you've been sitting long enough, so I would like you to stand. Thank you very much. And just where you are, I want you to do a little bit of just dancing, limbering up, okay? You got any music? Hey, fantastic, well done. Laughing, ladies and gentlemen, it's so important. Lowers your blood pressure, boosts your immune system, makes you feel good with all these hormones going about. So I prescribe for you one belly aching laughter episode per day. Okay, you're going to do that? Like who exercises or sings in a choir or does walking? Yeah, great. Okay. Again, not working. Again, fantastic for getting oxygen into the system. You need to get more oxygen, brightens you up, refreshes you. Now I want to tell you about the story of Rosie. It's based on Brandon Bayes. You may have heard of her. She does the journey method. And she tells the story of a man who came to her. He was in his 50s and he had a lung cancer. And she herself had cured herself of a baseball-sized tumor in her womb through meditation and alternative remedies. And she tells a story of how she took this man back, right back to the time when he went home and found his house rubble, his mother lying dead in the rubble, and he raged against these men. He didn't know anything about it. He was such a young man. And that rage turned to just a helplessness. And when she took him back with this journey method to that time, the man just dissolved in tears. We don't know what happened in terms of his medical help, what happened to him medically, but he did make a complete recovery. Now, Rosie had gone through a very difficult divorce. Her husband had left her for a man. She couldn't understand that. Should she in some way do this? She didn't know what to say. A few months later, she started to lose weight. She went to the doctor and then the consultant. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. Again, she raged, why me? What have I done? I spoke to Rosie and told her to write a letter to her husband, her ex-husband. What do you mean write a letter? Don't be silly, I don't even know where he is. Rosie, you have to write a letter of forgiveness. It will never be posted. So she did that. I asked her later how she was, and she said she had a peace inside her. I don't know if you've heard the story of the two monks. They were walking across the Himalayas and they came across a young woman beside a stream. Sir, can you carry me across the stream? The young man took her up in his arms and carried her over. Thank you, sir. She ran off. Two men carried on. The older one could contain himself no longer. He turned to the younger man and said, how could you carry that woman across the stream? We're not even allowed to speak to the opposite sex. The young man turned to his older companion and he said, I let that woman down an hour ago. You still carry her on your back. Is there something in your life, if you forgave someone, or maybe you need to forgive yourself? Is there something you're carrying that could change your life, make a real difference to that quality? Now, I'm going to get you to do a little bit of work. So if I could ask my lovely companions to hand out the Star of Life. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Now you'll see that it's between 0 and 100. And there's all these different categories: health, fitness, diet, finances, relationships, self-esteem, stress, career. Now, I'm sure there's nobody old enough not to be in employment. But it could be looking after children or grandchildren. It could be maybe charity work if you're not in career. Now, what we do is we work, really mark between 0 and 100 where you think you are at the moment. The only one round the wrong way is stress. Because if you're 100% stressed, it means you're actually very relaxed. I'll explain in a moment. Now, this was a lady that came to see me, and she plotted herself around like this, and her finances were great, self-esteem was good, but if you look at her health, it's not great. It's 30 as opposed to 100, and if you look at maybe her fitness and diet, that might have something to do with it. So what I'd like you to do, when she worked through the system, this is how she ended up, really good. What I'd like you to do just for a moment is to maybe plot yourself between 0 and 100, where you are. We should be playing some music. Is that right? Do you need a pen? If you work through the system, you get balance. Now raise your hand if you would like to know about an exercise which takes less than 20 minutes and you're not allowed to do it more than 3 times a week. Would anybody interested in that? Okay, so it's called Peak 8. Now what this means is, with Peak 8 you've got to do 30 seconds of a really intense exercise, and then 90 seconds of relaxation. You're supposed to do it 8 times. I've only managed it 4 times. But the first thing you do is just warm up. This is Julie Hansen doing a bit of warm up there, just rubbing her muscles. And this was me some time ago. But I still have my rebounder. It's wonderful. They're getting really, really warmed up. Now, it's interesting if you do Peak 8, even we know from research that even 2 minutes of this type of exercise, intense and then relaxed, will actually reduce insulin resistance. I'm sure you've heard of the diabetes epidemic we've got at the moment. So just 2 minutes of Peak 8 exercise will actually reduce that insulin resistance. So it doesn't take long. That's very, very good for you. I was going to say sex, but I won't bother saying that. Resistance training. In America, they took Americans who are over 60 who had never exercised before, and they split them into 2. And they decided to use one lot doing resistance training. Now, resistance training, in fact, on this occasion was in a gym using weights. But in actual fact, you can use pots of jam while you're watching television, if you like. Now, what they found after 6 weeks, 3 times a week, 6 weeks, they found that those who were doing the resistance training had a longer telomere length. Now, I don't know if you've heard of telomere. It actually tells you your biological age. So, in fact, those who had done resistance training were younger. It's interesting, those who did stretching, it didn't make any difference to their telomere length. So resistance training is definitely something to try out. I don't know if you've met, I don't know if you've been doing any of the yoga poses around here today. But I don't know, when I meet someone who does yoga, first of all, they're very subtle, but they also seem to be very much younger. I don't know if you've noticed that. So yoga is another thing to try. Obviously, it uses meditation, it uses breathing, as well as stretching. It's well worth trying. Now, if you've been around personal development, you'll have heard development before. You'll have heard of these three: focus, language, and physiology. Now, Sheena was sitting one night. She was a bit fed up. Her children had all grown up and moved away, and she was feeling a bit down. Now, the phone went, and this was her daughter, Natasha. Hi, Mum. Guess what? Gavin's proposed to me. Wow, I never thought that would happen. Now, in that moment, nothing had changed except her focus. She was now focusing on confetti and wedding dresses. And all that had happened was she had changed her focus. And that made a big difference into the way she felt. Now, if you come from Glasgow, where I come from, and you ask someone how they are, they'll say, okay, fine, surviving. I sometimes say, I'm very well, thank you. So they're going to lock me up. Have you ever met anyone who tends to sort of moan about the weather? Surely nobody here. And yet, if you go to some countries where they're absolutely desperate for rain, it's magnificent, fantastic, it's raining. Language is so important as well. Listen to language of people and how you can change the way you feel by changing your language. Physiology. Can everyone stand up again? I know you've been good at this. Great. And what I'd like you to do is just take a big, deep breath in and out. Okay. Now this time, what I'd like you to do is try and keep your shoulders down. Okay? And I want you to put your hand here, just underneath your rib cage. And what I'd like you to do is, when you breathe in through your nose, that's what we're going to do. What I'd like you to do is feel everything expanding, including your tummy, as you breathe in. And breathe out through your mouth, everything should be contracting. Try and keep your shoulders absolutely still. So breathe in through the nose. Breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe out through the mouth. Well done. Thank you. Now what physiology does, it changes again the way you feel. It produces far more oxygen into the body. If you've noticed someone like this, very shallow breathing, shoulders down, they are not doing their bodies any good. But you also notice that their mood is down as well. If you're feeling a bit down or you're feeling a bit tired, even if you just try that breathing alone, just doing a few breaths, you'll feel so much better. It's a very simple thing to do. Now, raise your hand if you like chocolate, sweet things. One or two, yes, okay. Now, unlike Jason Vale, who maybe some of you have just heard, I think to take a whole load of oranges is not how nature intended. So these natural sugars, wonderful. An orange is a fantastic thing to take. It's one portion of your 10 a day. And it's got wonderful fiber and nutrients and vitamin C, excellent. But when you take 10 of them and you put them into a smoothie, a fresh orange drink, what happens is you're almost overloading your body with natural sugars. Would you like to know a way of reducing your craving for sugar? Would anyone like to know that? Okay. What you need to do is an easy way, and by the way, I put that there because, of course, the more sugar you have, the more it goes down the way, doesn't it? It's alkalizing your diet. Now, you maybe heard of this. This is Chilean photography, broccoli. Look at the energy around that. About alkalizing your diet, I'm not talking about going vegetarian or vegan, but maybe some of you are already. I'm just talking about thinking about introducing more salads and green vegetables into your diet. I can give you an example. There's a lot more on the website, by the way, if you want to know about that. This is a fish is an acid food, and then you've got this wonderful green alkalizing. So that's actually how, if you think about your diet and think about your plate, you should have 1/3 acid and 2/3 alkaline. Now, the more you do that, you'll get to the stage where when the chocolates are handed around, you'll go, I don't really want one. This is quite good. So I'm not talking about drastically changing anything. I'm just saying what happens is your taste buds, your body actually goes, well, you know, I don't really want something really, really sweet, but you think it's very sickly. And it's just by changing your diet, alkalizing it, you end up in that situation, which is really useful. Now, this is my breakfast. Hope you can hear it.
It's called a green drink. So the first thing we do is steep about 10 organic almonds in a little water. What I've done is I've put enough water in for the drink, so it's about 3/4 full. And these are the ingredients. So we have some celery, we have some cucumber, and of course, most importantly, half an avocado. So basically, it's very easy. You just put everything in together. So we put in the almonds. As I say, they've been steeped overnight in the water. We then put in some cucumber, some celery, and the avocado. Now, I was going to say that some people like a little bit of sweetness, so by all means add some berries, add something to make it sweet. Some people like apple. I prefer it just like that, but it's up to you. So now we use, this is just a little handheld whisk. You can obviously use a blender if you've got one. Just a few minutes. We'll just... So that's it, blended, and this is what it looks like. It's called a green drink. What's really interesting is that satisfies you probably for 4 mornings instead of maybe toast and tea and marmalade. Just try that for a morning and you'll feel quite refreshed, you'll feel energetic, but the main thing is you'll feel full. There you go, the green drink.
Now, you might be thinking, that doesn't look so good. Is anyone thinking that? The interesting thing is, well, first of all, you can, if you want to have a little bit of sweetness, somebody I know in the front row puts an organic date, and understand, you might not understand the expression steep, but it's actually soak. Don't know. Anyway, he puts a date in as well, just to make it a little bit sweet. And the other thing I do is I add some porridge oats, organic porridge oats to it, and it makes a sort of complete meal. And in actual fact, I find that absolutely satisfies me. I don't want anything to eat till lunchtime. So it's a really interesting thing to try maybe now and again, but it's actually delicious, although it maybe doesn't look that brilliant. Now, who's heard of mindfulness? Yeah? Okay. If you think about two bits of food, and on the left side is something full of calories, maybe a lot of fat and sugar. There's not much nutrition. On the other side is something with lots of nutrition. There's minerals, there's vitamins, there's little enzymes that we absolutely need. And what I'm saying is, when you've got that situation, if you just stop for a moment, mindfulness is being in the present. So if you just stop for a moment and think, the thing is, you can still have that. I'm not saying don't have it, but you've just stopped for a moment to think about what you're eating, think about what you're putting in your body. Yeah? Now, I don't know about you if you've heard of the fear, fight, and flight mode. There's a lot of noradrenaline coming through our bodies, and it's supposed to be we're ready to fight. Now, a lot of people are in a stress situation when they're eating. People walk along the street eating. That's very stressful. What you need to think about is calming down. Because what happens is when you're in a stress state, the food goes in, it's not absorbed properly, so you're not getting the nutrition. It's also going through much more quickly, and you end up being very, very hungry much more quickly. So you need to actually slow down when you're eating and concentrate when you're eating. Sarah was a businesswoman. She came to me, she was very tired and she was putting on weight. So I said to Sarah, what's happening? She said, well, I'm in a man's world and I have to be better than the men. I said, yes, Sarah, but what would happen if you became ill? Oh, I wouldn't get much sympathy from them. So I found out through talking to her that she was living on the edge. She was driving around, getting a lot of fast foods. She was going from meeting to meeting. She really wasn't taking time for her food. I said, right, Sarah, what can you do to help with this lifestyle? So she started to think about how weekends she could actually plan her week. She'd think about maybe taking a nutritious packed lunch with her and actually taking time to eat. I met up with her about 6 months later, and she was so much happier. And that's literally all she did, was think about the nutrition, thinking about the time she was taking to eat. She was literally just slowing down, and it made a huge difference. And what I'd like to do now is actually to get you to relax, but you need to stand up for this. Okay? If you can. And what I'd like you to do, it would be nice if it was all dark, but it isn't dark, so you'll just have to imagine it being dark. What I want you to do is imagine a light coming from the top of your head and just relaxing you, so it's coming down through your face and just down your body. You're still very strong. Your legs are very strong. But you're just relaxing. If you can close your eyes, that would be great. Because what I want you to do is to start thinking about what you've learned today. Music. So I want you to think about what you've heard today. The story of Rosie. Is there something in your life, someone you need to forgive? Maybe yourself? What about the food you eat? Are you giving yourself time to eat? Are you giving yourself nutritious food? What about exercise? What do you love doing? Do you love going for walks? Joining a class dancing? The things you really, really enjoy to do. Get your body energized. Keep planning for the next year. Goals you want to set? You write down goals, they take on an energy. It's like a missile. What are the things you really want to do over the next year? Want to have fun? Imagine yourself achieving that goal. Feel good. Feel land. With big eyes. Achieve it. You feel absolutely wonderful. Like you've really got great quality of life. By making simple changes. Wonderful feeling inside of feeling well. Energized. Wow. I want you to just feel how good that is. Wonderful quality of life. Fantastic. Well done. Okay. Now, we're going to finish with a conga. Anyone who's willing to help with that? Come on. Conga.
Everybody gonna dance.
Join in.
Everybody gonna feel alright. Everybody gonna dance around tonight. Everybody gonna dance around. Everybody gonna hit the ground. Everybody gonna dance around tonight. Well, you can come on my place if you want to. You can do anything you want to do. Everybody gonna dance tonight. Everybody gonna feel alright. Everybody gonna dance around tonight. You can come on my place if you want to. You can do anything you want to. Everybody's gonna stamp the feet. Everybody's gonna feel the beat. Everybody's gonna dance around tonight.